Hey guys, welcome back. On this week's episode of Grunt Cave, we're going to be installing closet shelving in our walk-in closet. This is our closet. The room is 8 by 10 and was originally one of the office spaces. As you can see, we've added two 8-foot long shelves and clothing rods. We also painted the walls, updated the outlets, and installed new carpet. Because the new carpet does not go under the baseboard, I installed trim to protect and hold down the edges of the carpet. I'm going to be using recycled particle board from a previous project to build the shelves. Because of the sizes of the boards I have, the shelving will have a divider with one side 30 inches long and the other 44 inches long. My two biggest pieces need to be trimmed to be usable for the shelving. Most of the pieces have brad nails and screw holes in them, which I'll have to cut off or cover up with wood putty. I'm going to use a 2x4 as my bottom cleat since it will end up with most of the shelf weight. First I will cut a 75-inch long piece to be the bottom cleat. Next I will cut 5 12-inch long pieces to support the bottom shelf. Most of the particle board is 15 inches wide from the previous project, and that will work perfectly for the depth of the shelves. So I will just have to cut most of the shelves down the length. I purposely left my shelves a little bit long so I could take them to my table saw and trim a little bit from each side to get a perfect square cut. Once I had my shelves and my sideboards cut, I used the remaining particle board to cut my cleats. I need 3 different size cleats for this project, 12-inch, 30-inch, and 44. I'm going to double up the 30s and the 44s. So my back cleats are over an inch thick. For the 12-inch side cleats, they will be singles, but with 2 per shelf, I'm going to need 16 of them total. I highly recommend a table saw for this, as it allows you to rapidly make the same size cut without having to measure. But if you don't have a table saw, you can still get by with a circular saw. To assemble the cleats, I took 2 pieces of the same size and laid them on top of one another. You want to try to make them as flush as possible before clamping them down. I then used my nail gun with 3/4 inch long 18 gauge nails and shot several into each side to hold the pieces together. I considered adding screws, but since I'm going to screw them into the wall, I decided it was unnecessary. Next I took each cleat and trimmed the end with the miter saw. I squared up each side and removed any unflush ends that might have messed up the shelves alignment once installed. I purposely left all of my cleats long so I could do this. My final step before I begin sanding is drilling pocket holes in my 12-inch long 2x4 pieces, so I can attach them to the bottom 2x4 cleat on the wall as the support pieces for the bottom shelf. Several of my boards had nails, screw holes, and wood glue residue from the previous use. I started by sanding those areas down and then filled them in with wood putty. Once the putty dried, I came back and sanded them again to make sure it wouldn't stand out when painted. This worked pretty well, and there was only a couple areas where you could tell that this had been done. The humidity was really high in the days I ended up painting, and this greatly slowed down the drying process and ultimately affected how the paint came out. I didn't like it, so once I get the shelves installed, I'm going to end up repainting them again on the wall. To start the assembly, first I located the studs with a stud finder and marked them. Since stud finders are not always accurate, I like to drill the smallest test hole I can to make sure I hit a stud. After confirming the locations, I screwed the 2x4 cleat to the wall with 2.5 inch long wood screws. I was able to hit 4 studs. and we'll be able to hit 2 studs for each side of the shelves I'm going to be installing. Using clamps and a scrap piece of 2x4, I held the 12-inch supports in place flush with the top of the 2x4 cleat. I put one in at each end, one in the middle, and then in the middle of each side. Next I put my bottom shelf on, clamped it in place, and I used 1¼ screws to secure it to the bottom cleat and the 2x4 supports. I started on the left side where my 30-inch cleats are going to go. I measured 15 inches from the bottom shelf to the top of the cleat, and I marked the line and then transferred my stud locations to it. Then made sure my cleat was level and flush with the side of the bottom shelf before screwing it into place. Before I screwed it in, I pre-drilled and set my screws so that when I put it on the wall, it would be easier to maintain its correct position. I then repeated this process 3 more times to mount the rest of the cleats. I actually messed up here because I measured from the top of the cleat to the top of the next cleat with the shelf distance added in, so it made them all a ½ inch shorter than the first one I did. With the 30-inch cleats mounted, I was able to install the left side. I got some help to help hold it in place, and then used 1¼ screws to screw into each one of the cleats and the bottom support. Then we installed the middle divider, again putting 1 screw into each of the cleats, and then putting one through the bottom shelf. Next I installed the 12-inch side cleats. Making sure they were flush and level, I then used my nail gun with 1-inch long brad nails to hold them in place. After doing all of the boards, I came back and put 2 screws into each of them to make sure the cleat wouldn't come out of place. With the side cleats installed, I dropped the shelves into place and then secured them to the cleats with the nail gun. I also put a few nails through the sides into each shelf to help hold them in place and close the gaps. For the right side, I simply repeated the same process, starting with the first cleat and then continuing the same way I did for the left. Finally, I was ready for the top piece. I would have preferred a single long piece, but I didn't have a long enough one to do it. So I managed to make it work out of 2 pieces. After getting them in place, I tried using the nail gun again to secure them, but I didn't have the ceiling clearance, so off camera I ended up finishing it off with some 1-inch long nails and a hammer. So here's the complete shelving. It's nothing special, but the point was to use up the particle board that I had sitting around in my shop. The bins fit in there perfectly, and I got enough space to be able to easily see into the bins and pull them out of the shelves, and I can use the shelving still for anything else that I need to store on them because of the extra space. It's also a favorite hangout spot with my cats, which is always important if you're a cat owner. The other thing I really liked about shelving is it really cleaned up this room and helped organize it, because before our metal racks in here were just pretty ugly and they didn't do much for us. And this has consolidated all the bins to one location now on one side of the room. So if you like this video, then please hit subscribe and stick around because we got more videos coming on this warehouse rebuild. Thanks guys, and thanks for watching Grunt Cave.